It's starting the process. Yeah, recording now.
All right, I think we're ready to go then. So welcome everyone to this week's PTC NordicTalks webinar. And today we're actually a bit extra honored by having Eric Jackson from PTC as our next speaker. And Eric is the Vice President of IoT and AR Sales Engineering in EMEA, and he will give us an introduction to the future of the service. But first of all, for those who are still new to the NordicTalks webinars, my name is Torbjörn Peterson, and I'm the Partner Ecosystem Manager for PTC in the Nordics. And we are running these webinars every week, same time, where we invite customers and partners for some inspiration on any hot topics in digital transformation, to see what is possible and how to make things happen. And all the past webinars, they could also be found on the registration site. And this agenda for today is first a very quick overview of PTC done by my colleague Carl Jansson from the IoT and AR team. And then Eric will start by introducing himself and then touch base on a few challenges in the industry, how to address these, and then explain the business outcomes. And at the end, we will also have a Q&A session, so please keep your questions to the end. And this webinar is also, of course, being recorded and available in just a few days. But first of all, over to you, Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So next slide, please. If I can, Eric, if you can change slide. Yeah, perfect. So short introduction, PTC is a 30 years old international software company whose headquarters is based in Boston. So we provide software mainly for the manufacturing enterprises with a focus on the digital transformation. So we started with CAD and PLM, and now since a few years, introducing SaaS, IoT, and augmented reality. To you, Eric.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen, for the introduction, and really excited to be here with the Nordics community. I spent 5 years of my career actually living and working in Denmark, and had the opportunity to visit and work with a lot of different companies in the manufacturing space in the Nordics. So always good to be connected with the Nordics. What I want to talk to you today is about how companies can really leverage service as a big time asset in their business, also in the current environment, and be ready for the future when things get better with the pandemic. You're going to see slides. Some of these slides I took from a recent Investor Day conference that PTC did. The entire recording and presentation materials are available on the PTC website, but I'm took some of those just to pull out some highlights as it relates to the topic of service today. Maybe you're aware, maybe you're not, PTC stands for Power to Create. And today I want to talk about how to create great service using some of the technologies that PTC provides. And it turns out this is a very salient, good time and has been throughout the year, because many companies that were thinking digital transformation is something we need to do in the future and work on, well, thinking that not having to change anytime soon has been completely wrecked by the COVID crisis. And if there's anything that has, really, if there could be a winner or a beneficiary of this crisis, it's the fact that it has accelerated the trend of digitization and the things that companies can do, and made the opportunities of where digitization can help business very, very clear. And by many counts, COVID didn't change so much the world of business as it did accelerate trends that were already in place. And one of those trends, some of those trends that are happening, I want to share with you today. So this presentation, a lot of it is about thriving in the new normal, and how we can leverage technology to help us improve our ability to service customers, and how service can become a real asset to a business, especially in a challenging time that we're facing in the world today. PTC Research has identified kind of 6 key capabilities for thriving in the new normal. So freeing desktop workers, frictionless supply chain, we all know that's key and critical to bringing products to customers, connecting products and factories and bringing digital to the front line, as well as leveraging AI and virtualizing with spatial computing to help people work remotely across spaces. And today, I'm going to focus on a couple of them, and the first one being connecting products and factories, specifically about connecting products. And instead of going through, all the capabilities and all that stuff, I'm just going to talk about customer examples and how they're leveraging technology to achieve business results. So the first that I want to talk about is an example of the application of Internet of Things technology to help a company, which is also really important during these times, be able to extend the reach of their products into new markets that they couldn't address previously. And the case that I want to talk about today is Sysmex. So Sysmex, if you're not familiar with them, they create blood analysis machines. And these are machines which are very high tech. They require reagents that are used in order to chemically prepare the blood to be able to be analyzed by these machines. And they also have a lot of consumables and cleaning materials that are required to ensure that the machines are providing accurate results of the tests. The machines have to go through FDA certification and approval, which is a lengthy process. And the machines that they have, being complex and being critical diagnostic equipment, have been approved for use in laboratory environments in hospitals. So they required also a certain level of competence and capability of the people using them, not only in terms of the usage, but also in terms of the setup, in terms of the cleaning and the maintenance, and the using of the reagents and so on. And the challenge that Sysmex went after were numerous ones. One of them was that the results weren't always as dependable as they should be, because they found that some of their customers were using either cleaning materials or reagents that were provided by third parties and may or may not have been perfectly in line with the specifications that Sysmex had for their machines. It's a little bit like you have a bubble jet or inkjet printer at home, and you can either use the cheap refilled cartridges that they print pages pretty well, or you can use the original manufacturer cartridges that give perfect results. And in this environment, it's pretty important that you're getting perfect results. And so they wanted to make sure that the companies were absolutely taking no risk in using their consumables. And of course, that's a business opportunity for them as well. And at the same time, they had the opportunity to expand to doctors' offices. The problem was the FDA wouldn't allow them to expand to doctors' offices because of the risk of inappropriate setup and maintenance of the machines by less, say, capable, skilled people that maybe didn't go through the same level of education and training that a person in a lab in a hospital would. So the solution that they implemented was connecting these blood analysis machines via the internet through ThingWorx, and that actually allowed them in this smart connected product scenario to provide what they called a digital safety net. What that means is that they were able to, by monitoring the machines and understanding if they were using the proper reagents and the proper cleaning procedures, and knowing that they were done on time and at the right intervals, enabled them actually to be able to prove to the FDA that their machines could be used in regular doctor's offices in an environment where the people were maybe a bit less skilled and less focused specifically on using that particular piece of machine and piece of equipment. And they were able to do that in such a way that it allowed them to expand the addressable market by 50 times. So, that's a huge business opportunity for Sysmex, and it also allowed them to bring high quality, high-speed testing and blood analysis into a regular doctor's office, meaning that patients were required to go less to hospitals, which today in the world of COVID is problematic, because that's you're probably more likely to get it in a hospital these days than you are in a lot of other places. And I think there's there's a definite benefit to being able to bring this kind of testing capability out into the doctor's offices. So, that really allowed them to be able to bring test results to people from the doctor's office 24 to 48 hours sooner than they could have gotten it out of a hospital lab. So there are benefits for the patients. Doctors can provide new, faster, better services to their patients, and Sysmex has a better understanding of how their equipment's being used and is able to even inspire the development of their products to continue to better compete on the market based on what they're learning from the products and their usage. So that's a pretty interesting story, how a company was able to help patients, help people, and at the same time improve their business. And in the end, they were able to go from an addressable market of around 2,000 hospitals to 100,000 doctors' offices and clinics, which I'm sure you can imagine that's a big deal for a company like this. So just one example of how IoT is helping companies better service the market, and in this case they were doing that through enabling self-service and self-maintenance of these machines and tracking that it was done correctly. So that's an interesting story. There are a couple of other key capabilities that I would like to hit on, and those are freeing desk workers from having to go to a physical location to work and bringing digital to the front line. So freeing desk workers, well, we're experiencing that right now. We're meeting over Teams, and I think Microsoft Teams has made a huge impact on the world of knowledge workers like us, that has given us ways to collaborate and work together that we knew about before, but we didn't use as intensively as we do today. And there are others like Zoom and other systems that allow you to do similar things. But this suite of collaboration tools has been an enormous contributor to our resilience during the pandemic. But there's a challenge with that, and that is that only 25% of the workers in the world can actually benefit from this technology. 75% of the workers out there, believe it or not, are frontline workers that don't necessarily benefit from a Teams meeting or a Teams call to help them get their jobs done. And if you think about service workers especially, service workers are absolutely impacted by these challenges. They're on the front line, and they can't have always necessarily the teams and the people together required in order to execute the service or do the trainings or manage the changeovers, do the revisions, do the troubleshooting, and all of these things. So, the solution here is bringing digital also to the frontline workers. I think someone has gone off mute. If you don't mind muting if you're not speaking. Thank you. So bringing digital to the front line is a critical success factor in companies being resilient throughout the pandemic, and it is especially critical for service organizations today. And the solution or the technology that can make a great difference and a huge positive impact in this area is industrial augmented reality. And it really makes a difference excuse me, for the frontline workers. So things like remote collaboration we can do with Teams and Zoom and FaceTime. Well, for the frontline worker, the answer for that is Vuforia Chalk, which is essentially like a Teams meeting, but we're in a Teams meeting, we're looking at each other and looking at our slides. For a frontline worker, what's interesting is the piece of equipment that they're looking at or the environment that they're in and the things that they need to accomplish. So Vuforia Chalk actually allows the type of collaboration that we're doing, but a little different in that the focus of the collaboration is some physical area or physical thing. And of course, it's digital information, all the other stuff that goes with it. And you could think of Vuforia Chalk a little bit like WhatsApp, but in a secured industrial type of implementation with augmented reality added to aid communication in the context of the things that people are working on. So if you're not familiar with Chalk, it's a super easy, quick way to allow people on the front lines to work and communicate amongst themselves in an industrial setting, and at the same time with experts back at headquarters or back in the service center or wherever they might be to get things done while taking advantage of the opportunities of digitization. You have things like remote training, the ability to collect people in a classroom or in front of a piece of equipment to do training today is either limited or non-existent. Well, we have actually two solutions that can have a huge impact on training as well as knowledge transfer. And that's Vuforia Studio and Expert Capture. So Studio allows you to author that and then publish it, author information, for example, a setup procedure or a changeover procedure, and then publish it out to a headset device for augmented reality or to a tablet so that people can use that right in the context of the equipment that they're working on. Or you can have a worker who knows what they're doing, an experienced worker, wear a headset like a HoloLens, for example, or a RealWear device, and capture the knowledge that they have of how to operate or work on a piece of equipment, and then bring it over to either another headset or to a tablet so that that can be reused and leveraged in the environment that they're working. And for some cases, something like a YouTube video is sufficient, but a lot of times it requires a lot more detailed information and especially guidance of the worker who has to execute those steps and also validate and check that what they've done is correct. And that's what the augmented reality solutions provide here, is also the feedback that what was done correctly, and a protocol and a feedback on anything that may have not been correctly been done to specification, or something that was out of specification in spite of them doing the right thing. So these are some certain areas of opportunity related to service. In addition, augmented reality also helps us with a number of other trends that were happening even before COVID came around. So all of these things are things that augmented reality can help us address. And I want to talk to you a little bit about an example here, which is a company called Global Foundries. And Global Foundries makes the equipment that creates the silicon wafers that are used for creating semiconductors and chips. So I'm not sure if you're following what's going on in the markets and all that. There's, believe it or not, a shortage of semiconductors at the moment, whether it's DRAM, whether it's chips for cars. In fact, Ford recently published that they were going to have to reduce production and even stop some lines because they couldn't get the semiconductor components for the control systems for the cars and the trucks. So it's a major challenge. And one of the challenges specifically that Global Foundries has is that their equipment is very complex and requires a lot of specialist knowledge to install, set up, maintain, reconfigure, and so on in order to meet the needs of the semiconductor manufacturers that may own the equipment. So the way that they managed this in the past was they had teams of people that traveled around to the sites and provided expert knowledge and advice and service to their customers. Well, before COVID happened, they saw this as a cost and productivity challenge and started investigating augmented reality solutions. And they looked at our Vuforia Expert Capture solution, which allows them to capture the knowledge from these workers and then make it available to workers anywhere else on the planet to leverage that knowledge and experience in working with the equipment, which enables things like self-service. It enables things like the service teams of the operating companies to service the equipment instead of the Global Foundries experts. And it ensures also that the equipment is changed over, is set up and maintained properly according to specific procedures, which are easier to consume than a piece of paper or a document. And so they started piloting this a little over a year ago, a bit over a year ago, a few months before the COVID crisis came in. And then, of course, the COVID crisis accelerated that implementation. And ultimately, they had the outcome that they were able to reduce the cost of scrap for their customers by 25%. They were able to reduce downtime by 28% on average and training costs by 50%. And they were considerably faster. Here it says 10 times faster in creating the documentation, because instead of taking their experts and putting them in a room and saying, here, please write these manuals and procedures for the next 2 months, they put a HoloLens on them or a RealWear device, and they go through step by step and just capture what they do. And then all that's required is a person to edit and curate that material. And at the same time, they're able to publish to documents for documentation, as well as to an augmented reality device, as well as to a tablet. And that multivalent ability to also consume that information has been a big boost to their business as well. So very simple challenge. I've got machines all over the world that I need to service and maintain, and it requires specific knowledge and specialist knowledge. Under COVID, that's possible if you leverage enterprise augmented reality technology. If you don't have that, it's a very difficult, time-consuming process. So here's a quote from the CIO office, head of innovation, and just talking a little bit about what they're doing and how they're using it. And you can see the picture in the background of the type of environment that these workers are working in. Very, very complex machinery where things like image recognition, location targets, and so on can be really critical to help the person standing in front of the equipment know what to do with the machine. Another example is related to COVID in this case, and that is the very beginning of the COVID crisis in the UK. They realized very quickly they were going to have a shortage of ventilators in the pandemic, and they actually commissioned a number of UK companies to work together on the design of one company called Smiths, and Smiths makes ventilators. So they got Ford, Rolls-Royce, Airbus, GKN, Thales, BAE Systems, McLaren, and so on to come together and use their capacities to build ventilators based on the designs and the componentry that Smiths had. And Smiths agreed to share that with these other companies so that they could produce the equipment. And we were able to leverage, again, expert capture in this case, along with the HoloLenses to capture the procedures of assembling the equipment, such that these other companies that had never assembled ventilators before, within weeks, were able to start production of ventilators that met the specifications and requirements set forth for such a piece of critical equipment. And it's also a testament. I think they did something like 40 setup and changeover setup procedures and start of operation procedures that allowed them to be able to set up the production lines, ensure that they were producing the specification, do the quality control, all of the things required in order to produce ventilators by companies that had never done it before. It was an amazing testament to the power of using technology, in this case to improve manufacturing, but to get things done. And so we're very proud of the fact that we were able to contribute to that initiative, and is bearing fruit today with the challenges that the UK is facing. I'm sure that the ventilators that were produced here are being used throughout the country to help them manage the crisis and help the patients. So, the AR, we cover a broad spectrum of different things for AR, from Chalk, which is almost like WhatsApp but for industrial usage, with some augmented reality capabilities on top, through to expert capture, which I've talked about. There's a new product coming out called Vuforia Instruct, which is more focused on training. And then there's Vuforia Studio, which allows you to author and create custom experiences for example, augmented user interfaces or whatever you want. It's a more platform-oriented play. And then there are things like Spatial Toolbox, which abstract the programming and logic side of machinery into a user interface, which allows you to interact with the logic and program of the machinery through an augmented reality device, like a tablet or a HoloLens. And there's Vuforia Engine, which is our toolkit, which allows you to create custom designed AR solutions. All of that is, most all of that is built on the SaaS platform, which means it's available as a software as a service. You can get started and up and running almost immediately with this. probably most critical in applying technology to improving a service business is working with customers in an engagement which is focused on achieving results and delivering value quickly. And we have a clear value-centric strategy and approach for doing that. We apply that by identifying the business goals that are required to be achieved, doing a very quick mapping and understanding of the key business drivers and the use cases to achieve the desired outcomes. And then we use our experience from working with customers like you've seen here in order to implement that and make it real and tangible and achieve results quickly. And that's what it's all about, especially today. Companies are facing problems that they have to solve immediately. And PTC can really help companies to do that. So, if you're not into AR and you've kind of heard of it, but aren't sure of the details and what it could be used for, I would highly encourage you to learn more about augmented reality. It's relatively new, but it is absolutely taking off. The growth in the market is significant. And it's not just PTC saying that. You can look at research papers and analysts, and there's a lot going on in this space. And there are also a lot of proven use cases like assembly and inspection, training and learning, knowledge sharing and knowledge management, expert collaboration, which are proven and available today. So, if you're not familiar with AR, I would encourage you to investigate and learn more about it. There might be a solution for a problem that you or a customer of yours may be facing where AR technology can help. So I'm going to wrap it up here. A couple of final thoughts. Service transformation is a journey. There are lots of benefits along the way, lots of different areas to optimize and improve. And focusing in this area can help you to differentiate your products and your services in the market. It can increase customer loyalty, improve your profitability, improve safety, especially today. And if you approach improving service with a value-centric approach to identifying technology and digitization opportunities, it can really help you to do that in a way which minimizes the risk and increases the return on time and investment in the area. And allows you to capture those benefits early and mitigate waste on perpetual pilots and years of testing core technologies. If you focus on the business value, on the drivers, on the use cases, you can pick the right technologies which empower people and help them in the business to be successful. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for the time and for paying attention today. I hope you found some of the information I presented is useful and prescient to today. And I'll turn it back over to Torbjörn to wrap up the session and manage the questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eric, for sharing a lot of good stuff here. And I think we have one question from the audience, and that was actually, how much does it actually cost to pilot an AR solution for just a limited number of users?
It depends a little bit on the solution, and it definitely depends on the solution. Some of it's you can pilot for free. Some of it does have a cost associated with it. I would say, pilot, think of something that needs to be solved where this technology might apply, figure out if it's, what the business value is of solving it, and then set up the pilot to achieve that business outcome. And what we're finding is companies that do that are typically finding that the return on the investment is an order of magnitude of 5 to 10 times what they have to invest in the software solution. It's different everywhere, but I can't give you a straight answer, unfortunately, because it depends on which solution and what the situation is and what we apply to it. But it can be as expensive as free, or starting there and then working its way up. So, but I would encourage you to reach out either to me or to Torbjörn, and we can get you, with a little bit of information, we can get you a little bit closer to an understanding of what we can do there and what the cost might be. Okay.
Thanks, Eric. And time is unfortunately running out. So thanks everyone for joining this session. And a special thanks, of course, to you, Eric. And
My pleasure.
For the next More Nordic Talks webinar already next week, same time, same day, with Robin Sundqvist. He's the head of digital engineering and manufacturing at Capgemini. And he will have a session on success factors to scale intelligent operations initiatives. So with that, I wish you all a great weekend and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great weekend. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.